Alright, now the best part begins. So this is a global overview of the project that we will be building together. So let's start from the left hand side. So first we will create a Spring Boot project, and this will be our producer, and this producer will have an API where we can invoke or even start consuming a stream of data coming from a reactive REST API. So this reactive REST API is the stream of the Wikimedia, and I will give you an overview also about Wikimedia in just a few moments. So also you can see the link is in here, and I will also put it in the description of this video. So here our REST API or our reactive consumer will consume this data. So here we have a consumer of our reactive REST API coming from Wikimedia. And this REST API or this consumer will call the producer that will publish all these events to our Kafka cluster. So this is the cluster, and we have like the brokers, topics, partitions, and so forth. All the things that I already explained before. And from the other side, like the consumer side, we will also have another Spring Boot project, and this will be our consumer. So the consumer will subscribe and listen to all the messages coming to a specific topic. All right. And then afterwards, here I will just not implement this part. I will just be logging the data, but here feel free to do whatever you want with the data you have here. So you can, for example, persist the data to MongoDB, PostgreSQL, an S3 bucket, or any other storage system. All right. So here, like, I will leave you the chance, and also I would like to see what you will be doing and how you will implement that. And I would love to see your comments on the video, and also if you want, just publish the code on our Discord server, and I will be happy to review it and give you my feedback. All right, so also here you can picture these two services or these two projects as two microservices communicating together through a Kafka broker. All right, so now let's go to this one. So first of all, let me give you an overview. What is Wikimedia? I think Wikimedia is something that's related to you when we say Wikipedia. So Wikimedia is a group of all these services we have right here. So this is like Wikimedia is a global movement whose mission is to bring free educational content to the world. So like it's Wikipedia, Wiktionary, Wikibooks, and so forth. And this stream Wikimedia is a stream that represents all the changes that are made by the community on the Wikimedia projects. All right. And in order to see that, so here we have this link. I will paste it in here. And now I will just refresh the page. So you see here, so if I scroll down, it's a stream of data. So every time I scroll, I will see data. So if you want also to understand and to have a look about Spring Reactive or like reactive REST APIs, I would love to invite you to check the Spring Reactive course that I published before on my channel. So I will leave you also the link in the description of this video. So here we see the data. Maybe we can also zoom in a bit and see what are the data is. So here we have the topic, we have the schema, and we have so many information. We can also go and see this in details later on. So just to give you an idea about the stream and the size of the stream that we will receive from these endpoint. So there is an open project. It's called, I will also leave you the link in the description of this video where you can see an overview. So here we see that we have a stream of 68,000 and it's still growing. So this is a huge stream. And in order to be able to process that, we need also a really strong and scalable and powerful message broker like Apache Kafka. So here, this is a dashboard and you can have a look on it to see all the data and what are the streams. So here, for example, we have all these events, we have the size of the edit, and we have how many records are displayed. So far, like since switching to this tab, you see that we got more than 1,000 records. All right. All right, so this will be the parts or the building blocks of our application. Now let's move on to the next part and start building this project. All right, so now let's go ahead and create and configure our two projects. So first it will be a Maven project, and here for the group ID it will be com.alibu.wikimedia, for example. And now to differentiate the two projects, here for the artifact I will add this one for the producer, and I will keep it this way. So now let's go ahead and add our dependencies. So first we need our Apache Kafka, and then we need our reactive web. So here we will not be using classic Spring web annotation, but we need a Spring reactive in order to be able to consume a reactive API. And then of course we need our Lombok annotation. So this is the first project. Let's go ahead, click on generate, download it, and also import it in your IDE. And let's also create the second project. All right, so after downloading the first project, now let's change this one to consumer. So this will be our consumer project. So for this one, let's remove the Spring Reactive Web. Maybe let's have, for example, just Spring Web in order to, if we want to add some API, but for now it's not the plan, but maybe later on. All right, so this is our second project. Let's click on generate and let's open both of the projects in our IntelliJ and start coding. Alright, so as we did before, the first thing that we will do is to just first rename this one to YAML property. And now we can go faster because we can go ahead and copy some properties from this one. So here, let's copy these properties from the producer. And then we need to add spring.kafka and then in this way. So since we are working on the producer, just to bring you back, since we are working on the producer, we can copy paste this one. And also what we want to produce, we want to produce a string instead of a JSON, because like I just don't want to waste your time and creating an object and disrealizing the stream or the data that you will receive. I will just instead send it as a string. So first, this is the configuration of our producer. What we need to do next is to create our topic configuration. So now I will just right click, and then inside a config package, I will say, for example, Wikimedia topic config. All right, so in the same way, if you want, we can also go ahead and copy this bean. So it's simple even to rewrite it our own, but let's just make it faster and copy this bean from here and paste it in here. And also don't forget to add the @configuration annotation there. And now let's call it Wikimedia and then -topic or Wikimedia stream. So let's call it this way. All right, so now we have our topic ready. Here, let's also rename this one Wikimedia topic or Wikimedia stream topic. And then let's move on to the next step, which is consuming our stream API. So now within our producer project, again in the configuration, and in order to be able to consume a reactive API, first we need to have some configuration. So I will create a configuration class and I will call it web config or web client config to be more consistent. So this, and here in order to make this one a configuration, we need to add the configuration annotation. And now I want to create a bean, and this bean will be of type web client.builder. All right, so this is the web client, and then we have a builder. So let's call it web client builder. So web, and here we simply need to return web client and then .builder. So this is all we need to do. Now let's move on and create our web client consumer or our stream consumer. All right, now let's go ahead and create our producer. So here, right click, new, and then producer. And then let's call it, for example, Wikimedia producer. So this producer class will be the class as we did before. It's just the class to send a topic to our Apache Kafka. So here we can also go back to our Kafka demo. And here let's go to the Java and then producer, and we need, or we can take this from the Kafka producer. So here we just can copy this one, and also we can copy this, and let's go back to our Wikimedia producer. So we can close this class, and now I will paste the annotations, and then I will paste the code that I copied. So here, like for example, that we can whether change the log, or we can also remove this one. For now we don't need it. And here we need to rename the topic to our Wikimedia and then stream. Alright, so also just to be sure and avoid typos, I will recommend, so let's close the demo. I recommend that you go here to the topic config and just copy and paste the name just to avoid these typos. Also, you can create a variable for that and use it everywhere. Alright, so this is not that important, but just you need to make sure that you don't make typos just in case. Alright, so now we have our producer ready. Now let's move on and create the stream consumer service, the one that will consume the stream API, and then it will publish the message to the Kafka topic. Alright, now I will right click here and create a new class, and I will call it, for example, the stream or Wikimedia, or you can call the package whatever you want. And here I will call it Wikimedia Stream Consumer. So this one will consume to our stream coming from the Wikimedia. Let's make this one full screen. And first of all, we need to make this a service. And then let's say, for example, SLF4J. Just we want to log what we have. All right, then what we need to do, we need to inject our web client. So private final and then web client object. Let's call it web client. And then we need, of course, our private final, and then we need our Wikimedia producer. So let's call it producer. And now let's create a constructor with these two parameters in order to inject them. Now we need to make some small changes. So here, instead of the web client, we need the web client.builder. All right. So because this is the bean that we created in our configuration. So here instead, what we want to do, this .web client equals this builder. So let's also rename this one to builder to be more consistent. And here equals web client builder, and then .base URL. So we need to set our base URL. So the base URL for us is the stream.wikimedia.org/v2. So this is our base URL. And then we need to call, of course, the build method. So let me maybe break this down so you can see everything at a glance. So this is how we can configure, or how we can configure our web client object. So now the next thing we need is we want to create a method. So it will be a public void consume. So let's call it consume stream and publish. All right. So this consume stream and publish will consume the stream coming from this API and then publish it to our producer or to our Kafka broker. So what we need to do here, we have our web client, and then it's a get method. So .get, and then we need to pass the URI, so the rest of the URL that you want to consume. So it's /stream and then /recent changes or recent change. All right, so this is the endpoint, and then what we want to do is to retrieve, right? And then we want it to body to Flux, so we want to transform our body to Flux, and the format is string. Right? So this is what we decided. We said, okay, we want to consume and to produce a string. And afterwards, how we can still consume what is coming from here. So it's the publish subscribe pattern. So that's correct. We need to subscribe to it. So after subscribing, let's maybe try a system and then .out. Just to print, or let's say, for example, log and then info, just to log what we have in here, since we injected our logger here. All right, and then we will change this one to send the data to the producer. So what comes next is we need to create a REST API which allow us and help us just to trigger this consumption of the API and sending the data. So let's go ahead and do it, or you can also do it in this place by injecting a command line runner bean and just trigger this consumer. But let's make it as a REST API. That will be better. Perfect. Now let's right click here and let's create a new class. Let's call it maybe REST, and then let's say, for example, Wikimedia controller. All right, so this one I want it to be a REST controller, and also I want my required Args constructor and my request mapping. So the request mapping, I will call it /API/v1/Wikimedia, just to make it simple like that. And then what we need to do, we need our consumer. So let's inject private final, our Wikimedia stream consumer. Let's call it consumer, or let's call it stream consumer to be more consistent. So now all I need to do is to have a get mapping, and then public void, and then let's say, for example, start consumption or start publishing, since the main goal is to publish this stream to our Kafka. So start publishing, and then we require nothing. So here let's make it a void, or you can also say a response entity of type void or of any type, and then just return some message or some confirmation. All right, so but the most important here is we want to call our stream consumer dot consume stream and publish. All right, so this is our API. What we need to do, or what we want to do next, is to start the Wikimedia producer application, and we need to see that we are consuming the stream from our downstream API, and we need it to be logged in our output console. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so to do that, whether you can click here on producer application and run it from here, or also within IntelliJ, you have the option services, and then you have all the Spring Boot applications available in your workspace or in your project right here. So for our case, we want to start the producer application, and I will start it in debug mode. Just in case if something happens, I want to go back and be able to debug. So also you see that the configuration for our Kafka is working, and here we see that we have also this output for Kafka. So first I will clean this one, and then what I will be doing, I will open Postman and send a GET request to this API. Let's just say change the URL right here, and it will be a GET mapping. So we have nothing in here, and I will just click OK. So it's 404 because we have a typo here, and let's click send again. So it's 200. Now if I go back to our console, I expect to see that we have a stream of data. So this is what we see. So we have like the Wikimedia stream consumer, and it's consuming this API. So as you can see, as I scroll down, it will continue printing the data. So we are streaming the data, or we are reading or subscribing to that stream API. So now let's go ahead and enable our producer in order to publish these data or these events or this information to our Kafka broker. And to do that, we just need to go back here, and here instead of logging, let's say for example producer and then send message. So we can use this message, this method reference, since the send message also takes a string as a parameter. Also, you can re-enable the logs right here, but this should be also fine. Now, if we restart the application and send, we should be able to have the data published to our Kafka. So let's keep it for later on when we run the whole application. Or you can also, let's also give it a try. So here, if I open back my terminal right here and I try to consume the topic that we have, or the topic that we created, which we called our Wikimedia and then dash stream. All right, so I will just hit enter here, in order to have the stream ready. And now I will go back to our Postman and just hit enter. And here I'm expecting to see the data starting popping up. Alright, so my bad, I just restarted the wrong application. So I will stop this one and I will click on service again. So here we have our producer. So this one, it's already stopped, and let's restart our producer. All right, so the producer is up and running. And now if I open back the terminal and I click on send again, so this one is running and I'm expecting to see a data right here. So this is what we are seeing here. And if I scroll down, the consumer will keep consuming the data. So now, like, the good thing, we are successfully publishing data. And so far we published 401 messages. Okay, so now, so the producer is up and ready. Let's move on and create and implement our consumer and have the application fully up and running. All right, now let's go ahead and do the same thing with our consumer. So the first thing we need to do, I want to rename this one or change the extension to YAML instead of properties. You can also use properties if you feel much comfortable with that. And again, I can also copy these properties from here. So let me copy all this configuration for our consumer and paste it in here. So now I just want to bring back that I want to consume my string, or like I want to use the string deserializer instead of the JSON deserializer. Also, here we can even remove this one since it's not needed because we are just consuming string messages. So, but I will leave it in the commented here so you can use it later on. And also, this is our group ID. You can change the name if you want to use a new one. And here we can keep the same configuration. And of course, our Bootstrap server is also the same. So the next step is, let's go ahead also and copy the configuration from our producer, the one that we use to configure our topic. So here just we need this one, Wikimedia topic config. And let's also bring it here. So here you might say, okay, but this is a duplication. The answer is not. This is not duplication because it's just duplication when you duplicate the code. But otherwise, this one is not a duplication because these two services are supposed to be separate services. All right. So here I will also create just my consumer package and then Wikimedia consumer, and I will come back to it just in a few seconds. Also, I want to move this Wikimedia topic config. So like there is a cool way to do it within IntelliJ. So here within the package name, you can just add .config at the end, and then IntelliJ will propose to move this package. So here, if you use the auto completion, and it will ask you to move the package to this new package. All right, so here. All right, so now we just moved this configuration there. Now I will close all this, and here, like, the consumer part is the easiest one. So all we need to do is to create our consumer. And in order to do that, we can also go back to our Kafka demo and we can copy the code from there, just not to waste time on something that we already saw together before. So now all I need to do is to copy this code right here. And let's go back to our consumer. And here, let's make this one a service. And then also I'm going to use SLF for J, and I will paste this one and re-enable this annotation. All right, so it's a Kafka listener, and here we need to use the same topic. Exact. So let's close this demo right here and let's go back. So this is our topic name, which is Wikimedia stream. So now, going back to our consumer, let's give it a name. And also, if you changed the group ID in the configuration, please make sure that you change it in here. So now let's say consuming the message from Wikimedia stream topic, and then let's also log the message here. So now that's it. Normally this is all we need to do for our consumer because we just want to consume. And also here, please, I'm going also to leave it as a comment. So please feel free to do anything you want with the data. All right, so I would just leave it to you. And as I mentioned before, I would like you to implement something and also share the links, the GitHub links with me, and I would be happy to do a code review for you. All right, now what we need to do next, we need to start the two applications and see once we start consuming or once we start producing and pushing data to our broker, we need to make sure that we are also consuming it from this part. All right, so now the first thing that I will be doing is to start my consumer. So this is the consumer application. I will start it in debug mode and see if everything is fine. So now let's see, we have already we are consuming already some data. So this is because we have already some queued messages. Now, if I start my producer application, so let's start the producer and then let's just invoke the endpoint, and then we will see that, okay, so yeah, that's fine. We are not able to start the producer because both applications are running on the same port. So let's go to our producer and go to application properties or application YAML, and here at the end, let's say server.port and let's say 8081, for example. All right, so now I will restart the producer and now it should be up and running normally without any issues. Okay, so the producer is also running. I will clean the console and then I will open again Postman, and here I need to change the port and send again the request. So here we see that we start producing the data, and if I open the consumer, we will see that we are consuming messages. So this is what we see right here. So the consumer is up and running, and here we are consuming the data coming from our producer. Now, if I stop the producer from sending the data, you will see that the consumer will no longer receive any other messages, so it stops printing the data.